Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret identity?
Hello, everybody. This is Veena Sood. I'm an actress living in Canada.
And welcome to the show. I know exactly why my guest relations manager sought you out. we
Oh, why
actually
is that?
we actually were just invited to BronyCon, despite
Ah,
never going. Like we actually are kind of a little bit disconnected from ponies, so we were like, "Oh, cool, we're going to BronyCon," and it was a new experience for us. And I think my guest relations manager has really gotten into it. So,
well,
um,
it was a new world for me too until I got the part of Ms. Harshwini. And I'd never done, I'd never really seen the show. I'd heard a lot about it, and I knew there were a lot of fans of all ages, girls and guys, and adults as well. And when I watched the show after having recorded it, and then I went to my first BronyCon, I was amazed. It's like this whole other world that I had no idea existed.
Yeah, definitely. I was having a conversation with my guest from yesterday about how, when you're used to going to anime conventions, there's kind of a mix of a bunch of different ages, and then for BronyCon, it's about little kids and then like older male adults, and it's really interesting.
For sure, I had the same reaction. I was like, older male adults, is this creepy? But then I found out that it's really the message in the My Little Pony storylines that is attracting a lot of male adults, and especially, apparently, a lot of war veterans, like a lot of soldiers that come back from having done a tour. Um, they're somewhat, traumatized, obviously, from whatever they've had to deal with. And I guess apparently the message in a lot of the My Little Pony storylines is similar to that of the message that they're given in combat, which is, no matter what, I've always got your back. Like their fellow combat soldiers. So apparently this message really draws them out of their shell and helps them reconnect a bit more with the world again.
I was completely unaware of that. That's really interesting to know.
Yeah, well, I was like, why are these guys into My Little Pony? Like I said, I was like, is this kind of weird? Is it creepy? And then I understood what the reasoning was, and now it makes a lot more sense to me. So yeah, it's really cool. So then I was really into the whole brony thing.
Well, I think there's a lot of cartoons growing up where you kind of latch on to the life lessons of the cartoon. It was Sailor Moon for me, and I'm sure there was a cartoon for you as well.
Yeah, yeah, we all have our like childhood, yeah, you relate to them, right? For me, it was anything to do with horses, not ponies, but horses. I was a real horse lover as a kid, so there were lots of different things I was into. And Flintstones. I don't know why, but I loved the Flintstones.
The Flintstones are great. I have my Flintstone vitamins right next to me.
Right on.
I'm still rocking the big kid thing.
Yeah, my favorite were the animal appliances. There'd be like the toaster and all that, or the lawnmower. And it's like, I hate this job.
Yeah, I'll always remember that. But for the fans out there, rewinding a little bit, obviously you didn't get your start in the acting biz with My Little Pony. So what initially sparked your interest into acting?
I always knew from about age 14 that this is what I wanted to do. It was a whole bunch of different things that collided, but I just kind of knew. I was very lucky. I was one of those kids that just knew this was my passion. And yet, at the same time, in high school, I found all the drama kids to be super flaky, and I didn't like them very much. I was like, oh, these artsy-fartsy people, I don't relate to them. But I still was very unwavering in knowing I wanted to be an actor. So I enrolled in the drama theater program at university where I grew up, and I loved it. I really got into improv, which back then there wasn't a ton of, especially as a public performance kind of format. And it was through the improv world that I got really into the acting, and I got into more like plays, and then I always wanted to try film and TV, so I lived in LA for a couple of years, but I didn't really fit with LA. I didn't really like the city for myself to sort of. I had come from a really creative, prolific background where I was doing tons of theater and improv, and I was on stage 5 nights a week. And then moving to LA, I was like, oh, I just have to wait now for the phone to ring. It was really hard for me to make that adjustment. So, being that I'm Canadian, I figured, well, there are only other 2 cities to live in to pursue my dream as an actor would be Toronto or Vancouver. And because of my family living near to Vancouver, I chose Vancouver. And there was also a huge, and still is, improv community in Vancouver. And they shoot a ton of American film and television up here in Vancouver where I live. So it just seemed like the right fit. And I've lived here for a long time, and I love it, and seem to have made a good living at it, and I'm really happy about it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And, since you mentioned it, and this is for the fans as well, there's so many aspiring actors that are like, I'm going to pack right up and move to LA. And I don't think they realize, it's not necessarily a culture shock, but it's a different place. And, it's more expensive and a lot of other things. So are there any, I guess, words of wisdom concerning LA that you would give the fans?
Yeah, I actually find that if you are wherever you're currently living able to get really good training and a lot of experience, you'll have an easier time doing that and then transitioning to LA rather than going to LA cold. Now, having said that, for every time I give that advice, you could probably hear a story where it worked differently for somebody. But for me, the fact that I had all my training and a ton of experience before transitioning to a place like LA really, really, really helped. LA, like you say, is super expensive, so to take acting classes, to rent your own apartment, all of that is a lot of money, and most struggling actors that aren't making a full-time living from being an actor in LA have to do a job that pays a lot of money for them to just be able to continue becoming an actor.
Yeah, there are definitely stories of a lot of people, doing waitressing and things like that until they find some stability. And that's not just in LA. That's anywhere when you're trying to hone your craft.
For sure, for sure. I think it's really important to have some sort of job that sets you up so that you can spend the money on really good training and you can spend the money on the right tools that you'll need to become a good artist. If you're just waiting for that magic audition that lands you that magic role, and yet you haven't in the meantime been working on your craft, when that big role opportunity does come, you would not be as prepared as all the other people who've been working really hard. And they're the ones that are going to get the roles instead of you. So you just have to find a way to set yourself up to have a really balanced life.
Well, for the fans out there, since you mentioned Vancouver to me has always seemed like it has more animation, versus Toronto. I could be wrong.
But you're right, actually. A big part of my life is doing voices for various cartoons. And yeah, the animation community up here is huge. It started years ago with Electronic Arts, and I believe Pixar are up here now, and Sony, and there's a lot of really small independent animation studios. There's one that I've been working with called Clay Animation, and they do amazing video games, and the whole office is just young people making video games all day long. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too, because now, you're not just seeing characters and sort of cartoons, but you're seeing video games. Video games have definitely expanded so much and are certainly the latest media to take over.
Yeah, there's also a lot of motion capture work up here for us actors, which is that, where you wear that really tight leotard with all the ping pong balls all over your body. And then you kind of have to portray the character in front of a green screen studio, and it's really fun though. It's really different.
I have to say, every time I see somebody in one of those outfits, I can't help thinking, how goofy do they feel right now? I mean, you can see all of their lumps and all of their different places,
Totally. Yeah. But it's sort of like doing any kind of acting role. Sometimes, even if you're not in a leotard with ping pong balls all over you, you're just out in the middle of a field in playing in some human role, and you'll be in front of a green screen studio pretending you're on another planet. You know, you still have to get inside the headspace of the character no matter where you are. And for you, it's as real and truthful as if you were really there. And it's kind of the only way to do it. Otherwise, if you really thought about it too much, you would feel so stupid, you just would stop doing it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Motion capture is really interesting because on some projects, it seems like they record both the voice and, you know, the facial expressions, or they record the facial expressions separate from the body, and then they come in later to do the voice. You know, everybody
Yeah.
seems to have their own way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, as an actor, I find it's it's easiest if you can record it all at the same time, because if you have to come in later and match, say, a facial expression to what your voice was doing, it may not feel like it's connected. Whereas if you've got to do some moment where you're in some extreme emotional state, it's more ideal if the voice comes from somewhere inside you and that whatever's going on with your face is all connected up at the same time. Otherwise, it starts to feel very disembodied and fractured.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Do you have any fun stories with motion capture? Maybe one of the balls fell off and you had to redo a take, or you know, something funny happened and you just got
Yeah,
you
well, I
guys
did
could stop
one where
laughing.
I had to look like I was juggling fire, like fireballs, and we, we started to get really cocky with how good we were with where the fireballs were being thrown around, and there was no way in real life you could totally be chucking these fireballs up in the air, doing a twirl, and then catching them again. So we just had a lot of fun with that. But that's the fun part, right? You can really do stuff that, unless you're a circus act yourself, you could never do that normally.
Yeah, I'd rather, you know, walk a pretend tightrope than an actual one.
Totally. Yep. I mean, it'd be really cool to be able to do all of that in real life, and probably a little more exciting. But yeah, for the sake of safety and getting it in the film can, for sure it's better to do it in a studio.
Well, for the fans out there, are there any video game projects that recently came out that you're a part of, or anything that you're working on that you can talk about?
Yeah, there's a video game out there by Klei Animation, Klei spelled Klei, and the video game is called Invisible Ink. And I play a character called Central. She's the character that talks to you, the operator, and tells you to go down this hallway and open up this door and go in and investigate this. And oh, look out behind you, here comes somebody. And it's sort of like a British Judi Dench, James Bond kind of voice that I do for that character.
Yeah, I've actually seen that game played a lot. My roommate, as soon as it came out, got pretty obsessed with it. And I haven't sat down and played the game myself because I always just prefer watching him play it. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's my voice telling him where to go and what to do and to watch out and be careful and hurry up and all of that.
that must have been a fun project too, because you know, the style of that game is so unique, but
Yeah,
nostalgic for old kind of spy-like movies.
that's right. There's a whole demographic that grew up on those older kind of spy movies, so they love this game for that reason. The interesting thing about most of this kind of work is you always lay down your voice separately from seeing the animation. So the animators listen to what you've done and then animate accordingly. So I don't actually see that, what my character's physically doing. I just stand in a studio with headphones on and speak into the mic. And then 6 weeks later, the animation is all completed, and then you see what they've done to match to your voice.
Well, out of sheer curiosity, because I know some people don't play video games at all, even though they're in video games. But have you given the game a chance?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was cool. I had to try it. I was like, what is this thing that I've just done? I want to see. It's really fun. You get, I can see why they're addicting. You're sitting there trying your best to do a really good job of completing the task that you're supposed to do and ascending to the next level. And all of a sudden, an hour and a half has zipped by, and you're like, oh God, I haven't uncrossed my arms and shoulders for an hour and a half, and I'm like totally stiff. Ah.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. I actually played a game recently where one of the features, because now everything has motion sensors in the controller, one of the features was to not move. And it's like,
Oh,
oh, I
wow.
can't even breathe. This is awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty nuanced motion censoring. Holy.
Yeah, no, it was I had a few moments of frustration.
Bad. Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Especially, yeah, what if you have to go to the bathroom?
Well, for the fans out there, are there any other projects that you're working on, not necessarily video game related, that you want to promote to them?
I just completed a couple of episodes of the new X-Files. They shoot that, of course, in Vancouver. So the brand new X-Files, I think it'll be out in January of 2016. They only did a mini series. They did 6 episodes. So for all those older fans who have remember the old X-Files, this is something for them. So yeah, it was fun because I got to work with both David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, who are lovely people, and they were working very hard to make the new X-Files work. So let's hope it's a good one.
I think anything with Mulder and Scully is amazing, and I can't help it.
Yeah, yeah, they were working really hard because they're under, I would think, a fair amount of pressure. Everyone's going to be viewing this and comparing it. Inevitably, they're going to be going, what do they look like now? Is it going to be as good? Do we care anymore? All of those kind of things are going to come up for the fans. So they had to, the producers had to also make sure that it was applicable to today's current what's going on in the world with all the things in the news, and it had to be relatable to today, not 20 years ago. So I hope it does well. Of course, I haven't seen any of the episodes yet. They just are only just wrapped it up here in Vancouver here now in September. So we'll see in 2016. I believe it airs late January for 6 episodes.
Well, congratulations for being a part of that. I mean, to me, that's a part of history, to see the revival of that.
Totally. Oh, completely. There's a lot of people that were and it was a groundbreaking genre when it came out. Nobody'd done anything quite like that. It was, people compared it to, I guess, the Twilight Zone from way back. But other than that, nobody had ever done anything quite like that. So now, of course, there's lots of different types of shows that are in that world. But X-Files was definitely groundbreaking material back then.
Well, for the fans out there that want to keep up to date on, any projects that come down the pipeline, where can they keep track of your work?
There's 2 places. I'd say the most updated one is the Internet Movie Database, imdb.com. And you just enter my name, Veena Sood, into there, and all my credits come up. And then I have my own website, veenasood.com.
And I'm linking that in our live chat right now for the fans who are asking for it. A lot of our fans go to anime conventions and things like that. Do you have any geek conventions that you go to, or any that you have that you've been invited to?
Well, I haven't pursued that world as much, Jackie, I have to say. I get so busy with some of my other projects that sometimes getting out of town to go on those is a bit difficult. So unfortunately, I don't have any geek conventions coming up that I can tell you about.
Well, we'll keep track of your IMDb and your websites, and hopefully, if something comes up, you'll announce it on one of those.
Definitely. I'll keep you posted for sure.
And I definitely know how hard it is to travel and then go back to work. The airplane and the air pressure always seems to mess with me if I go on too many airplanes within a too short of time. I come back and my everything is up here instead of down here, and I'm like, what's going
Totally.
on?
Oh my God, it's funny you're saying that. I came back from my summer vacation 2 weeks ago, and we were flying in, and all was fine, and my ears haven't popped yet. It's been 2 weeks, so right after this, I have to go to the doctor and find out what's going on. It's kind of funny you mentioned that.
Oh, well, I hope everything's okay. I've had instances where I've gone to a convention. I've basically done like 4 flights in about 4 or 5 days, and then by the end
Wow.
of it, it just feels like my like everything that was in my throat has like shifted up, And then I'm
Yep.
just like, oh gosh, I am producing a really weird sound.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like I'm talking where I have a cold. You know, you can hear your voice bouncing around on the inside walls of your head,
Mhm.
except for I don't have the cold part.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah. So yeah, people think it's such a glamorous life, but the reality is it's a lot of tiring work traveling. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean I really love traveling. I wouldn't give it up for the world because, I love seeing new places, but for the type of work that you do, you have to be really um, you know, you have to really watch your voice. So a lot of
Yeah.
times every day, twice, I'll just run like the shower as hot as it can just for the steam to kind of like reset my vocal cords.
That's a really good idea. That's really good. That's smart thinking. Good for you. Yeah.
Well, for the fans out there, since I know we're nearing the end of this interview, I was wondering if you'd be willing to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
Sure.
Now, I think you might already know the tradition, but just in case, we ask everyone, whether they're a voice actor or not, if they'd be willing to do a bump for us.
Sure. Like just doing a straight voice.
Yeah, you can do it any way you want to. I leave it all up to you guys.
Well, how
Um,
about I do it as my little pony voice?
oh, that would be adorable.
Okay. So you're going to tell me what to say?
Yes, we basically ask if you could say, "Hi, my name is," you insert your name. "I do this." You can put whatever you want there. And
Okay.
you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Oh, hello everybody. This is Veena Sood. I play Miss Harshwini on My Little Pony. You are listening to 91.8 The Fan.
I love the little laugh. That was amazing. Thank you.
Did I say it right? 91.8?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Yeah, so that's Miss Harshwini.
That was adorable. Thank you. And for any of the, fans out there, do you have any last parting words before we let you go? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
Sure. How about I give you dating advice?
All
Okay,
right,
you have to be
perfect.
able, if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you got to be able to answer yes to these three questions. Number one, can I love this person for who they are right now? Like nothing has to change. And vice versa. Can they love me for who I am right now? Number two, um, in loving me, are they comfortable with that? Like, I love the fact that I love you. And number three, have they done enough work on themselves to be a reasonably happy person in life? They have to be able to answer yes to all these three questions. And hey, everybody, if you even have one no, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
I absolutely adore that advice. One of my biggest complaints when it comes to relationships is when you get into a relationship, and I always quote the musical, "I love you, you're perfect, now change."
Yeah, that's true, hey? Everybody wants someone to be a different person than what they thought they were.
Exactly. And that's not what it's about. So thank you very much for saying that.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Jackie.
And for any of the listeners out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.